This is the world's first live daily LGBTQ evening news show, literally out of the closet and into the headlines on Queer News Tonight with Al Ferguson.
Good evening. Welcome to a special Aqua Foundation at Large edition of Queer News Tonight. This is the world's first and only LGBTQ+ daily evening television news, broadcasting live and available on demand. Available on all smart televisions, including Roku, Apple TV, Android TV, Amazon Fire TV, YouTube, and Facebook. It's time to queer up the news. We are live and literally out of the closet and into the headlines. So many of your important stories we are going to tell this evening. I'm your anchor at Queer News Tonight, Mateo Ventura Bruer, the Executive Director of the Aqua Foundation. This evening, we bring you the news of and perspective representing the LGBTQ+ community from South Florida, America, and across our planet. This is the world's first and only unedited live LGBTQ+ evening news show. Whatever happens unique in LGBTQ+ news, you will see it and hear it. Hotspots Magazine Happening Out Television Network is a nonprofit 501c3 media company in the same model of PBS and NPR, but designed for the LGBTQ+ community. Our mission is to support the 10 pillars of our LGBTQ+ community. We want to inform and educate the key issues of our Black community, Latino, lesbian, trans, students, youth, seniors, HIV/AIDS healthcare, business, political advocacy, and faith. Help us support our community. We are part of one of the largest LGBTQ+ media companies in America, Hotspots Magazine and Happening Out Television Network. Our magazine is celebrating 38 years of the LGBTQ+ experience, and our television news, talk, and entertainment shows support our mission to educate the LGBTQ+ and broader community. First, let's welcome Karen Costello-Wilder, the board chairman of the Aqua Foundation for Women, one of America's most important LGBTQ+ advocacy organizations. Oh, shit. So next, let's welcome anchor chef Josie. This celebrity from Bravo's Top Chef is the master of the champagne and oyster restaurant Bubbles and Pearls on Wilton Drive. Welcome, Josie.
Thank you.
Let's welcome Tyia Hareland. She is a proud member of the transgender community and the treasurer of Reflect Collective, an organization that works to support queer, trans, and POC survivors of sexual and domestic violence. Hi, Tyia. Next, let's welcome Bad Papi. They are a Latina gender-fluid drag artist who redefines what it means to be trans and non-binary in the Latin community. We are the reporters for Queer News Tonight, and this evening we celebrate the Aqua Foundation for Women, the only nonprofit 501c3 in Florida by and for LGBTQ+ women. The LGBTQ+ community in South Florida and across America is diverse. Our community across the world is vast, and here are the bullet points of the news about lesbians and queer women. First, in news about LGBTQ+ women, Lesbian Her dating site says to transphobes, delete our app. Her, a global dating and network platform for lesbians and other queer people looking for love and friendship, sent a mass notification to its users saying, quote, a message for transphobes, time to delete her, end quote. Robin Exton, who founded the platform in 2015, said that all lesbians are welcome on the app, trans lesbians and non-binary lesbians included. In honor of Lesbian Visibility Day, Robin shared a post expressing support for trans and non-binary lesbians and pushing back against those who don't. Following the publication of the post, Her's Twitter account received a tidal wave of backlash from those who disagreed with it. The Her Twitter account pushed back, and shortly after the heated exchanges, Twitter temporarily suspended the Her account. So this is really interesting to me that the Her account is the one that got suspended. I mean, granted, I don't know how many other accounts may have gotten suspended in this situation, but it definitely doesn't seem to me to be aligned with protecting against hate speech, which we've seen already. Twitter decided that doesn't matter anymore.
I mean, are we surprised now that Elon Musk is head of Twitter and controlling basically what happens in these Twitter outlets? I mean, just the other day, Elon Musk literally made it legal to dead name trans people and to basically harass trans people online.
Yep. I think it's like also a lot of these social media platforms just don't really care about, you know, being tolerant to different communities or supporting other communities. So they just, I don't think her should have been suspended, honestly. And it's really bad considering the amount of backlash that the trans community has been facing a lot lately.
You know, what I would say, and you could bleep me out on this one, but I say, you know, Twitter, who cares about them? But what I really, what I want to say is really acknowledge her, right, for standing up, because we know that. I mean, look at the Michigan Women's Festival, okay? There was a big conversation. I know you and I can remember that, right? Did I just age myself? I think I did. But, you know, the women's, the Michigan Women's Festival, there was a big, huge conversation during that time about, you know, women who were transitioning and who F to M's, and whether or not they were still welcomed at the Michigan Women's Festival. We see this in many environments, many arenas when it comes to lesbians, and it doesn't mean that the non-binary, the queer lesbians, are they welcomed in our spaces? And I think that this is a little soul searching for women in this community. If we want to be the space for acceptance, then we need to practice acceptance. And so hats off to her. Thank you for standing up for all of the lesbians in the community.
I definitely agree with that, and I want to say I'm not a lesbian. I don't identify as a woman, but I think it goes back to, we don't have to understand it. I have met, you know, he, him lesbians, people who identify as lesbian and still want to use certain pronouns that maybe on the surface you're like, I don't get it. You don't have to get it. So I don't need to get it. It's not my business. It's not my place to say who can or can't. I'm not ever going to be thinking anyone should gatekeep people's identities and how they want to identify.
But I really hope that her, like other dating apps, follow suit with what her is doing, because it is really amazing for having more inclusivity of different identities and different demographics, because there's a lot of hate on a lot of different demographics, especially on dating apps. So that needs to stop.
I would also like to say that unfortunately, the TERFs in the lesbian community is rampant. Unfortunately, it's a very unfortunate thing, but it's true. Sapphics, for some reason, are scared of trans women, and actually that's something that I kind of talked with like Tyia about the other day, which is that I guess in society we see trans women as men rather than women, and that kind of like
mixes the identity and kind of makes people in society think men are like rapists and predators. So
well, not only that, but men in society are associated with quote unquote rape and predatory behavior and stuff like that. And so, you know, it's just kind of like misgendering, not only misgendering trans women, but also it's a lot of like what we're seeing, which is like, unfortunately, the patriarchy that we live under.
Yeah.
You know.
Go ahead.
Excuse me. First of all, I just want to say I'm so glad I don't have to be on a dating app. So I am aging myself. And secondly, I think that all the letters of the LGBTQ need to be kinder to each other. They can be extremely exclusive, you know, onto themselves. And I think it would be a great place, you know, for us to start there.
I think that's an excellent point, especially given that to people who are not part of our community, we are all the same. So we should be aligning ourselves together. Karen, did you want to go with what's next?
Sure. Next in news about LGBTQ plus women. White House celebrates the L word, cast creator with lesbian press secretary.
So this week is Lesbian Visibility Week, and as the first openly queer person to hold the position of press secretary for the President of the United States, I see every day how important visibility and representation are. Today, I'm honored to welcome the cast of The L Word and Generation Q, two Showtime series that chronicle the friendship, the love, the challenges, and the triumphs of strong, funny, and resilient queer women. Up here with me are the amazing, talented actresses who play those very roles. Jennifer Beals, Leisha Haley, and Catherine Menig, and the show's co-creator, writer, and executive producer, Eileen Shaken.
For many lesbians across this country, the L word is a holy text. And I mean holy. The White House honored that text by inviting 3 of the show's stars, Leisha Haley, Catherine Monig, and Jennifer Beals, and the show's original creator, Eileen Chaikin, to a press briefing for Lesbian Visibility. Corinne Jean-Pierre, the first out queer person to be press secretary, introduced the stars and creator, saying that growing up as a queer woman of color, she knows what it is like to feel invisible. Talking about the show and the importance of the diversity, she said, quote, "It is important that young people see characters on television and in books who they can relate to and whose life stories and identities inspire them to reach their highest potential." Eileen Chaikin took to the podium to share her thoughts, saying, quote, "We are painfully aware that our struggles are far from over. We face new threats against our community, from online harassment to legislative acts of violence to actual physical violence," unquote. She also praised Biden for strengthening non-discrimination protections for our communities, signing the Respect for Marriage Act into law, and supporting LGBTQI kids and their parents. Haley, who is a lesbian in real life and plays the bisexual Alice on The L Word, had a message for queer people who could be listening. To all the community members and allies who are bravely leading their lives and motivating others, she said, "We see you." First, I have to admit, growing up as an Irish white person with blue eyes, when I would start to hear I never saw myself in magazines and stuff like that. And I didn't get it. I get it now, which I'm grateful for, and I totally understand. And I think it's so important to let people know that you see them and that you hear them. I'm a big believer, and I have been for probably 40 years, that being heard is more important than being loved, because love can be wonky, So, Tyia, what do you think?
I think it is really cool that a queer TV show is at the White House, especially centered on women, because there's so many queer shows that are more centered towards gay men. So it's really interesting, and I think we've come a really long way in queer media. One of my favorite shows, Pose, has a lot of trans women and trans women of color, and I think that's amazing to see in a lot of different perspectives and new media, even compared to when I was a kid, even though it wasn't as long ago as some other people. But, or even, it wasn't meant to be shady, but I'm only 23, so I noticed that might not be a big amount of progress in my life, but for other people, they've seen a lot more, but I've still seen a lot even when I was a teenager.
Yeah, and speaking of progress, I just want to acknowledge, imagine just a couple years ago, could we even imagine a queer anything coming to the White House?
Absolutely.
So, I definitely will say that there are some areas Biden hasn't lived up to certain promises, but I definitely, it's an improvement and huge. You can't, it's not comparable. The two are not equal in my humble opinion.
Okay, I'm gonna stop aging myself right now. But I've had I've watched both seasons. I've watched the real. I'm friends. All right, we're not even gonna name drop either. Okay, let's just go back to the L Word. Is one of those shows that's iconic for our community. It took all the things that we do behind closed doors, the conversations, we were like packaged as the U-Haul relationship, you went out on a date and next thing you were like going and renting a U-Haul and moving in together. This show broke that. Thank you. Yeah. And it broke that mold, and it allowed us to step out of whatever anyone thought was a typical lesbian. We all played softball, then we did the U-Haul, every stereotype you could think of. But this broke the stereotypes. And then to be able to see how that show impacted so many generations of women now moving forward, right? The millennial generation, the Gen Zers, the Gen X, me even too, okay? So I just think that it's like such an amazing moment for lesbians to be standing during a press secretary, a press meeting and really addressing the American people right now when they're trying to silence our voices.
Absolutely.
Well, next, guys, we're going to go right into the news about LGBTQ plus women. Muna celebrates Dyke-chella as women's pop band. Muna's front person, Katie Gavin, screams at the crowd of girls, gays, and theys, and even a few straights during their set at the 2023 Coachella Valley Music and Art Festival. Welcome to Dyke-chella. The atmosphere feels like a queer safe haven in the Indio, California heat. Rainbow flags wave at the front of the Coachella crowd as one of the greatest bands ever sings Silk Chiffon. And the audience absolutely loses their mind when Phoebe Bridgers rushes on stage. But that was nothing compared to when the two started dancing on each other. Can't believe I missed it. It's their biggest tour so far and with their biggest crowd so far, and the band is eternally grateful for all the love, even when it comes to the newer fans not knowing their old music. Muna just dropped their new song, One That Got Away. A kiss off to all their exes who are missing out on the person they are now. They also played 2 acts for Taylor Swift's The Eras Tour. Katie says she's also gifted her homemade bath salts to Taylor. Talking about the show at Coachella, she said, quote, "So we were also thinking about the people that weren't at Coachella, but were watching on the live stream and are in different environments dealing with different things. We're just happy that we have the opportunity to be publicly out and safe. We also have the obligation to do that," end quote. I mean, I've heard of Muna. I don't know if I've ever gotten into their music, so I'll just put it out there. Knowing that they're on the Coachella stage, which is, look, I got a caravan ready to go to Coachella next year for all the girls who've never been, or I've never been to Coachella. I'm going to take some food there, like a concept, and I'm going to party there. So I'm partying and I'm going to Coachella. And I hope Muna's there next year too, because when there's LGBTQ stages at these big, huge events, these big music festivals, that's so important for us. I mean, do you guys go to Coachella? I mean, is that even on your thing to do?
No. It's a lot of money.
Yeah. I am a student. If you want to fund me, go ahead. I'll start up a GoFundMe right now. You can fund my trip to Coachella.
I don't know Muna as well, but I do know Phoebe Bridgers. I love her sad lesbian girl music. And she's just so awesome. I love her music, but I like the fact that they named it Dyke-chella, kind of reclaiming that word. I thought that was really cool. I really enjoyed that.
And I think that was cool. Your point about it being like a LGBTQ stage at a huge event like this is, Coachella is, I don't think, necessarily known for being the most inclusive and kind of welcoming environment. So the fact, I mean, it's, kind of an influencer, top tier, kind of it's a high entry fee to get in. So the fact that we're seeing representation and seeing queer people who are out and proud and loud, that's one of the biggest stages of the world right now. So it's important for us to have that.
Absolutely.
Tyia, as a certified Swiftie that I know you are, how do you feel about that little collab?
I think it's really cool. What I really like about the tour that Taylor has done, she has included so many queer acts. I know she included Bibi Badu, I believe that's her name. I know she's queer. I know Gracie Abrams is queer.
Well,
so many queer people on that tour.
It sounds good. I'm glad she's doing that. Next in news about LGBTQ plus women. Aqua celebrates the lesbians who've made USA political history. Lesbians have been making political history in the U.S. for 50 years, with many of them being among the groundbreakers of the LGBTQ plus community. The first out LGBTQ plus person elected to any political office, first out U.S. Senator, and more. Let's get a first start to June Pride Month as Aqua Girl celebrates the lesbians who've contributed significantly to U.S. politics. Here are some of the lesbians. Kathy Kozchenko, the first out member of the LGBTQ plus community elected to any political office in the U.S. She won a city council seat in Ann Arbor, Michigan in April 1974. Elaine Noble, the first out candidate elected to a state legislature. Roberta Attenberg, the first Senate-confirmed out presidential appointee. She was nominated by President Bill Clinton to be Assistant Secretary of Housing and Urban Development. Tammy Baldwin, elected as the nation's first out U.S. Senator. Dana Nessel, elected Michigan's Attorney General in 2018 and then again in 2022, making her its first out statewide official. Sharice Davids, one of the first 2 Native American women elected to Congress and the first gay one. And Karine Jean-Pierre, a lesbian and longtime activist. She became the first African American and first out LGBTQ+ person to be the White House press secretary. And I just have to say, so far, I think she's doing an amazing job. I love that she is bold and unapologetic and seems to be really pushing things forward as far as saying in making that statement, that bold statement that queer people are welcome here and bringing that up at every turn that she has.
I just have to do a little shout out to my hometown of Ann Arbor, Michigan, and my state, Michigan. I am a pure Michigan girl, and they are all blue right now and doing really amazing things. And Ann Arbor is a very progressive community. I lived there for many years. So it's lovely to hear that. And I think a few other people should take a lesson from them.
I think it's really cool to hear about these women who are LGBT icons here, like becoming senators and many different things. I never heard of them, and I don't know about many LGBT or queer people in our government. I know of the trans woman in Montana right now with her whole issue, and Pete Buttigieg, and I've known about Harvey Milk, but besides that, I've never heard of these women. It's really cool.
I mean, I feel like in politics, like women aren't as talked about as the men are, and I feel like because we're now like broadcasting it live, and I'm just really happy and honored that we get to like share this news because it's incredible. And not only are they like senators, but they're actually like creating change because they are part of the minority that is so underrepresented in politics.
I love that they said there was 2 Native Americans, and one gay. So I'm just, when that was read, I was like 50%. All right.
Just goes to show the power of voting. So,
well, as a woman who has actually attempted to hold an office, I really do understand how important it is for us to represent at the table.
Absolutely.
Obviously, there's a lot of resources for women, lesbians, or or however way you identify, to learn more about how to run for office. So I encourage and invite everyone who's watching the show today to take the step. If you feel that's something that you wake up in the morning and there's a calling, and so if you hear that call, then go.
So Chef Josie, what office was that? What political?
I ran for mayor of Wilton Manors.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
incredible.
Right after the pandemic. And I learned so much. I'm so grateful for that experience.
Are you?
Yeah, that's what I was. Are you running again?
Yeah, I'll attempt one more swing.
I would vote for you.
I don't know if Wilton Manors is where I will run again, but I don't know.
All right.
I'm definitely not out of the game.
It's open. It's in
I
the
will
air.
say that if anyone is interested in learning more about becoming a candidate, of course, you can reach out to SAVE in Miami, and then also the Victory Fund in Washington, D.C.
All right.
Fantastic.
So
next in news about LGBTQ+ women, Brittney Griner says she won't play overseas again after Russian jailing.
Well, I can say for me, I'm never going overseas to play again unless I'm representing my country at the Olympics. If I make that team, that would be the only time I would leave the U.S. soil, and that's just to represent the USA.
Brittney Griner, in her first full press conference since returning from Russia, said she'll never play overseas again unless it's in the Olympics. And she expressed support for those still detained abroad and for transgender athletes at home. Griner had just arrived in Russia in February 2022 to play for a team there during the WNBA's off-season when she was arrested for drug possession. A small amount of hashish oil was found in vape cartridges in her luggage. She ended up being tried, convicted, and sentenced to spend 9 years in a Russian prison. But the Biden administration was able to arrange her release through a prisoner swap in December. She will play again for Mercury this season, starting in this month. She said she doesn't judge anyone who goes overseas to play basketball, noting that many WNBA players do it to supplement their income. A journalist asked her about the tide of legislation seeking to keep transgender athletes from playing on teams matching their gender identity. She said she will make fighting those moves a priority, and everyone should be able to be who they are. Talking to the press, she said, she has learned not to take anything for granted. So there's like a couple things here. First of all, I do not blame her for not going to play overseas again. I wouldn't. I personally think it was also racially motivated because she is Black. And I think it's just ridiculous that they even arrested her in the first place, because it was just, there wasn't barely anything like on her. It was just left over. And also, like, if it's from another country, like, it just doesn't make sense to me. I 100% think it was racially motivated. But in addition to that, I think it's so amazing that she's also fighting for trans athletes here in the United States, because my gosh, like, we really need the support and help, because these governors and these politicians are really making it impossible for trans athletes to play for no reason.
I mean, beyond it being racially motivated, which I agree, I think it probably is. Do we think her identity as an out and like super visible lesbian or member of the queer community?
Oh, 100%.
Totally.
So I'm not Russian, I'm actually Polish, but Slavic culture is very transphobic, homophobic, and very racist, unfortunately, as well. So I definitely think her being an out Black woman was a big deal to them, big factor to them. And for some reason, for whatever reason, I've heard this, something to just, drugs are like really bad when it comes to weed over there, or like any form of like, they just freak out about it. I don't know why.
I mean, I think they also associate weed with just like minorities and like just like they equate it to bad, but really like it's actually helped a lot of people. I mean, I'm not trying to like advocate for weed here. I mean, maybe a little, but
there's a lot of health benefits.
There's a lot of health benefits.
Well, before we get into the sponsor tonight, no, just kidding. But I think definitely there's a lot of commonalities with our own country, and the kind of, we may say, oh, over there they may have these certain deep-seated prejudices, but definitely in the United States as well. And
Also, let's make it clear, it wasn't a Russian prison. It was a gulag. And it was a horrible, horrible place that they sent her. Places where people, like, you know, had multiple murder convictions, you know, and so I agree with it all. They were going in, and they were going in hard. And I'm just so grateful that she's home.
Thank God.
As a big fan.
So, next in news about LGBTQ plus women, Aqua celebrates the best lesbian and sapphic coming-of-age movies of all time. It's hard being a lesbian or queer woman, but being those things and a teen is a whole other world of difficulty. Thankfully, some of the best movies about queer women also happen to be coming-of-age films. These movies explore what it means to be a girl, a woman, a lesbian, and queer. They explore female friendships, relationships with parents, school issues, and the future. And they do it excellently. Aqua Girl celebrates such movies on the backdrop of the coming June Pride Month. You can watch these movies with your family or partner or friends next weekend. Watch But I'm a Cheerleader, Pariah, The Half of It, Booksmart, The Miseducation of Cameron Post, Alice Jr., Princess Side, Blockers, Mosquita y Mari, and Crush. Unsurprisingly, nearly all these movies are directed by women, and 6 are directed by queer women. We know the type of stories we want to see, and we're the best at telling them. Next time you want a wonderful queer coming-of-age movie about girls and women, check out these films. Happening Out Television Network are proud partners with Sunshine Cathedral, the world's largest queer church. The network broadcasts from the Happening Out television studios on the campus of Sunshine Cathedral and broadcasts the largest LGBTQ+ religious service in the world from Sunshine at 10:30 a.m. every Sunday. Aqua Foundation would like to thank Sunshine Cathedral for their incredible support of the lesbian and queer women's community. Queer News Tonight proudly supports Sunshine Cathedral. Hashtag MyQueerChurch. Next, we want to discuss issues that are important to LGBTQ plus women. We call it the Aqua Kiki, social conversation about women.
In the Aqua Kiki, social conversation about women, we discuss the disappearance of lesbian queer bars. Where do we go now? A recent video on TikTok is going viral. In it, Vicky, the owner of the ladies' room in Florida, describes her experience getting this bar open in Largo and the current challenges in keeping it open. This bar opened just over a year ago, and its presence in the community remains significant because this is the only lesbian bar in Florida. That's hard to believe. And there are only around 23 left in the entire nation, according to the Lesbian Bar Project. Vicky has launched a GoFundMe page with an overall goal of $100,000. According to the video interviews, the bar owner has gone out of pocket to create this haven in the city and has struggled to find more traditional lending options. Okay, I just want to say up front, I understand this story because, and this is a generalization, and I have experienced it, so I feel comfortable saying, I feel lesbian women, they say, oh, we want to do things, but then they don't show up. And so as a person who is a leader of an organization, a women's organization, it's really frustrating. So I'm sure that the women in that community are grateful the place is there, but I'm not convinced they're supporting her. But yet they're like, oh, no, we want it to be there.
So why do you feel like lesbians don't show up to lesbian bars?
To be honest with you, I don't know. Not only just lesbian bars. For example, we are having drag bingo Sunday night here on the Drive, Aqua at Hamburger Mary's. And, it's an Aqua Girl event. We're kind of relaunching the brand. And we hardly have anyone that's, signed up to go. And, they're saying they want more things. They want times where they can just hang out together and be together and not like at an event or not like at a competitive thing, and it's frustrating.
Well, I think what's exciting, at least about particularly the Legendary Bingo on Sunday. Maybe we don't have a lot of tickets sold, but it's also South Florida. People wait till the last minute, people walk up, and I'm excited to reach new audiences. I mean, people are we need to have more of a presence on the Drive. I mean, Wilton Manors is kind of known to be a bit of a boys' town. I was walking up and down there today, just speaking with different business owners about Aqua. And I think everyone I saw was, of a very similar narrow demographic. And I think part, of Chef Josie's restaurant is really unique, and we need more of that.
Well, thanks for noticing. Thanks for seeing me, right? And there are a few of us on the Drive, right, who actually own businesses on the Drive. But, when we think about it, it's like just even a restaurant, right? Everyone asks me, are you a lesbian restaurant? I'm not a lesbian restaurant. If I'm a lesbian restaurant, I'm going out of business. That's like lesbian bars, right? So it's sad, because I think that also in the effort to make safe spaces for women, for us to be ourselves, right? To be able to feel safe, don't get hit on in that way, and don't get catcalled, or I don't really know what is the challenge of going out, but maybe we have to rethink our spaces. Mm-hmm. Maybe we have to rethink how we're thinking bars, and we have to get back to why we want a bar. Why, do we even want a bar? Well, clearly we don't. You know, that's kind of what's happening, right? Is we clearly don't want a bar. Maybe we want a coffee shop that serves alcohol, you know,
a cat shop.
I was going to say that.
Maybe a cat shop.
I think it's also about marketing, and I think we need to expand safe spaces. Like, I've brought this up to you before at Bad Papi. There's not a lot of trans spaces in a lot of areas, and when there is lesbian or gay spaces, they're mostly for cisgendered people. It's never for trans or non-binary people. And the closest we get is a strip club with cis men going to see trans women strip. And honestly, I don't want to go out and be sexualized all the time. So I think it's so much in the way we promote things, and maybe these places haven't promoted as much or haven't found the right type of promotions to get into the lesbian community or the Sapphic community or the queer woman community.
So one question I do have, because you mentioned how people go to your restaurant and ask, you know, is this a lesbian bar? Do they ask those same questions to like gay-owned restaurants?
That's a great question.
That is a really good question.
Doesn't even matter, right? Doesn't even matter that a lesbian couple owns this restaurant. It matters to us, right? And then you would think, like, if I had to break it down, and I mean, I'm gonna just blast our community right now, but if I had to break it down, and I had to break it down into a demographic, and then I had to really think about how many lesbian or queer identifying women are my patrons, I would say that it probably speaks to less than 25%. Oh. So when you think about that, and trust me, a lot of lesbians come, but in the grand scheme of things, it's 25%, less than 25% of my business.
Yeah.
Again, you wouldn't be able to stay open.
I wouldn't be able to stay open with that number.
We do have to mention, though, historically, women and continue to earn less than on the average, which, I mean, I'm not going to say, I don't know what the whole answer is, but I think it would be wrong to not include an excess of spending money.
Correct.
Especially if two couples or if, you know, a same-sex couple doesn't have kids. I mean.
And I also think, you know, this push all the time for being equal. You know, we don't want to be thought of, well, I mean, we do, but we say we don't want to be thought of as like special or different, you know what I mean? And so with these years and years of fighting for equality, I think it's like, then there's a lot less, obviously, lesbian bars. There's one in Florida, you know what I mean? And even maybe some gay bars, I don't know. But it's saying we're kind of, lack of a better term, like whitewashed, and now we're accepted anywhere, so we don't have any place that's special just for us.
I think it's also very interesting that we think about like bars, right? Because we're specifically speaking about bars right now. And then when you think about, again, because I'm always rethinking, I'm like, how do we, a few of us have even thought about this. Like, should we all team up and like,
maybe we can make other spaces.
A super lesbo space.
We should call it the Pussy Lounge. You know? And have it with cats. Like,
why not a coffee shop?
A cat, I'm literally telling you, you have no idea how many lesbians have come up to me and they're like, I want a cat shop, like a cat coffee shop and stuff like that. And we can call it the Pussy Lounge. Like, I'm literally telling y'all, somebody out there, please do that concept, because I'm literally hearing it in the lesbian community all the time.
Let's get back to that.
In the next on Aqua Kiki.
So in the Aqua Kiki social conversation about women, we discuss what queer women say they need from gay men and allies. The mission of the Aqua Foundation is for women is to serve and support the lesbian, bisexual, transgender, and queer women's community in South Florida through grants, scholarships, and initiatives. The foundation believes in creating an open dialogue with the community. The foundation also encourages women to lead by example, because that is what queer women of today's age and time want to do. They demand fair opportunities, support, equity, and equality. queer women expect to be treated with respect by fellow women and the community, including gay men and their allies. Listen to the queer women of our community sharing their thoughts and opinion. Sadly, a frequent topic of conversation inside the quote L of the LGBTQ plus community is we don't get the support nor the respect from the G.
Ain't that right?
Well, you know, listen, guys, I have to say, as a woman who has many gay male friends, and a matter of fact, they're almost a lot of the time my preferred choice, and it's not because I don't like women. It's because as a masculine presenting woman, I identify as she, her, they, them. I can flow through my genders as I have my entire life. I don't necessarily fit in with the lipstick lesbian, so I don't want to talk about the Kardashians, and I don't want to talk about those things that are not very, I don't want to talk about the clothes you're wearing, your shoes, unless you're modeling them for me, and I'm not really like interested in that, right? But however, I am very interested in doing dude things a lot of the time, because a lot of dudes, they just don't bother each other. When you hang out with a guy, you kind of just hang out, you do whatever you do. You don't even have to say too many words a lot of the time. And it's just like fun, you know, it's like quiet, it's peaceful, it's fun. I don't have the same experience. I'm also a part of the leather community. So all my leather daddies and my leather boys and my bears and my cubs and all of those guys, they're so loving. It's like the most loving community I've ever met of gay men. So I think we just need to also, if there's gay men out there who are not vibing with us, then we just let them go, okay? Because there are gay men out there who support us and who are our allies. I mean, we also see it in a lot of the different organizations, heading up these organizations. I know that you've been creating these types of collaborations, these partnerships with men who are also running these other big organizations throughout South Florida and nationally. So, I mean, what is your experience?
Oh, yeah. I mean, well, first of all, speaking of people who've been an amazing support, Orlando Gonzalez of SAVE has been an amazing support for Aqua as we go through this time period. And I know Karen, as our acting ED for a whole year, you know, really leaned on his support, and we're just eternally grateful for that. And I think it really comes back to, for me, gender roles and binaries, they seem to matter less and less. And I know we've spoken about it, that when we're going out and finding spaces, it's less about exclusion and saying this has to be just for us. Because when you start drawing the lines, that's when you start leaving out trans people. That's when you start leaving out butch people or people who present in a different way. And exactly, that's not breeding community or collaboration or inclusivity. So I think while we have to acknowledge that people who identify as women or people who present femme still face certain heightened discrimination, and we need to work to lessen that, we also need to acknowledge that everyone together is facing a lot of challenges, and by drawing lines, we're stronger together is essentially the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah.
I feel like, but we also do have to acknowledge the privilege that gay men have in our community. Like, I do understand your points in saying that, like, gay men are for us, and gay men do support us, and the drawing of lines is also like a problem that we also face. But I feel like sometimes cis gay men have privilege that obviously, like, me as a Sapphic doesn't have, because well, in the case of, like, for example, like white cis gay men, their I guess, like, minority label is like gay, and so it, like, basically pushes them up in the, like, I guess, like, scale of, like, privilege or whatnot. And so when you think about that, cis gay men aren't, like, really thinking about trans people. They're not really thinking about women. They're not really thinking about really anyone but gay men. And you can even see that with, like, a lot of gay men voting for Donald Trump.
Yes.
Why? It's true. And I think there's definitely a history of people voting against their interests because they don't see that it's against their interests.
They don't see
Yeah.
I mean, I know a lot of people in the Latino community who also voted against
But
Trump.
also because they're just so, I feel like they're closer to privilege. Like, for example, the Cubans in Miami, like, a lot of them are white. And so because of their proximity to whiteness, they're voting for Trump because they find it like advantageous to them.
Right. It comes down to white supremacy, which is something this nation was founded on.
Yes.
Coming from, go ahead, Tyia.
Sorry, I'm happy you mentioned that because there are a lot of differences in our community, and I feel like we need to really acknowledge the different privileges we have, like either as a white person or an able-bodied person or as a more male-presenting person. And there will be different people in the community that support us. Like one of my best friends who is a white gay man, I love him, his name is Andrew. So he's always by my side, and there's a lot of really good people in the community. It's just, we also need to accept our differences and our different labels ourselves, because accountability starts within, and that's how we make progress.
I love that.
I'm going to come at it from a different angle as a, as the former acting ED of this organization, and kind of just look at it from how the lens of Aqua, since we're talking about Aqua Kiki here. We have always struggled getting money from white, upper class, gay men. And sometimes, like, I want to say elder, but 50 and up or something like that. I know a lot of people who have a lot of money, and my friends, of course, give to Aqua. But it's like something that I've been struggling with for a couple years now. And one good thing that happened, my close friend Ed Straub volunteered to pay for 13 ads for Aqua in hotspots. And he's a long time, gay, did a lot of fundraising and that kind of stuff. And he said to me that day, because I was telling him about this struggle, and he said, Karen, you have to put Aqua where people are looking. So I'm going to do this, and hopefully that will get some, some movement,
Right.
Like exactly in, more so in Wilton Manor, in the Fort Lauderdale area.
I think it really comes down to making those relationships and those connections. That's exactly what you're saying, Karen. The people who donate and the people who are involved with Aqua care about us as individuals, get to know us, and want to support us. It's not, otherwise it's going to be what's in it for me. And I wanted to just say the reason we're here today on this platform is for white, older gay men who do want to support Aqua. So
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
in the Aqua Kiki social conversation about women, we discuss, is LGBTQ plus America's future female or genderqueer? The Aqua Foundation for Women was the brainchild of Alicia Apfel based on her belief that South Florida needed an organization for and by LGBTQ women. Alicia gathered local lesbian leaders to create the Women's Fund in 2004. In 2007, the organization changed its name to Aqua Foundation for Women. Since its beginning, the organization has been striving to offer more opportunities to the queer women of the community and build a sense of togetherness that can help women progress. Considering the present anti-LGBTQ plus political environment and the not-so-improved situation for queer women in the nation, Aqua Women discussed the possibilities in the future and whether the LGBTQ America's future will be female or genderqueer. So I love this question. I think
Should we take a vote?
No, I think the importance here is in our country there are systemic inequities, and people who are female or who are assigned female at birth or present femme are going to face a certain set of inequities because of that. So we have to acknowledge that, and we have to work to reducing those inequities on that basis. But I also think that to the younger generation, and we might throw this to y'all over here, gender seems much more fluid and much more ambiguous, and I think it's been fluid in some of the older generations and throughout time as well.
Oh, absolutely. And I really think a lot of these bills that are really cracking down on trans people are due to fear of, more genderqueer, more different gender expression, because I feel like younger generation, maybe not all of them, but they're kind of like, screw gender, like, it's just something to label as, and there's a lot of cultures that don't look at gender the way we did. Like, I know your indigenous culture doesn't look at it the same way we do.
No, absolutely not. We absolutely do not. It wasn't until actually we were colonized that we started adopting more binary gender roles. And I just think that maybe in a way we're going back to our roots.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, I think that we're going to have to wait for an entire generation to pass on to the next stage of their lives before we see any real acceptance of genderqueer, new gender expressions, because man, the old guard is like holding on strong, and they're going to be the death grip, literally, and they're going to probably take their power, their influence all the way to the grave.
Oh yeah.
And so right now the invitation to your generation really is to prepare, put your ducks in a row, be on the offensive right now, because they're on their way out. I mean, that's just that is the sorry, but it's the cycle of life. We all kind of, we live and we die. And so that's what's going to happen. And right now we're seeing this birth of this the new generation who is non-binary and open to new expressions. And it's really so intriguing for me because, as someone who has been androgynous my entire life, maybe just when I was younger, I was a little bit more femme presenting, but
you didn't have any choice.
I did have a moment. But
it was a phase.
It was a moment. It was a few years, so it was a moment. But now that I see this and I see just people, it's like the thing with clothing and everything that we purchase as consumers. There's a psychology behind it, and it's all about whether you fall on that spectrum. Are you a man? Are you a woman? And then they're going to put you in pink if you're a girl. And that whole, my God, if just the older generations could understand how this has infiltrated our lives, how gender and your ability to express yourself as you choose. We have to just learn to accept people. And if you identify as an elephant today, I could care less. Okay.
I agree.
That's another conversation, but if that's what you want to do, that's on you.
I think another issue why a lot of these conservatives are having a lot of issues with the gender is because gender and white supremacy and the patriarchy kind of all intertwine together. And once you dismantle the form of gender, you're dismantling the idea of white supremacy and the patriarchy, because we're challenging different norms that were not challenged before. It's like, how dare we do that?
And I also want
really
to
hit the nail on the head.
that gender has changed over time and across cultures. So actually, skirts weren't made for women; they were made for men.
So we're high heels.
Pink was actually a boy's color. And for example, across culture, men in South Korea wear makeup.
Yeah.
Gender is a total made up.
We could spend a whole nother hour on just the different ways people
I'll give a
present
lecture.
in gender.
Can I have let's just one last thing. I am feeling this with Aqua. You know what I mean? We are bringing Aqua into 2023. You know what I mean? And we're finding, dealing with younger people and having a younger ED, a lot more ideas, and it's a very exciting time. Very exciting time.
So, next up in the Aqua Key, social conversation about women we discuss, all for one and one for all. Will queer women stand for our transgender siblings? No matter how certain elements of society talk against the trans community, lesbians will always stand by their transgender siblings. The recent open letter proves it. Over 800 lesbians have signed an open letter to the Lesbian Project denouncing the trans exclusionary group as not reflective of the lives, needs, and community of lesbians. The Lesbian Project was launched earlier this month by Kathleen Stock and Julie Bindel. The open letter was also signed by singer Billy Bragg, Oxford University's Student Union, and Speak Out Sister. The letter said, quote, "Your advocacy does not reflect our lives, needs, and community. We believe it is built upon separation and exclusion with which we do not identify and which we condemn," end quote. Woo. I am so glad that they're speaking up on this, because let me tell you, as a trans person myself, and I'm not a trans woman, I am non-binary, but even me as a trans non-binary person, I still experience the effects of what TERF mentality can do, especially because they equate, you know, vagina with woman and penis with man. Like, there's no other room for anything else. It's always about body parts. It's always about like the way that you know, I act, I look, I do things. Like it's very limiting, you know. And I just wish that the TERFs out there would realize the harm that they're causing to everyone, including themselves.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
dating as a trans woman is the worst thing ever. I don't recommend it to anyone. I lean more towards men, but I feel like I do have some interest in women, but I'm scared to even think about doing that because then they're going to make me into like something bad, and I'm going to have to think, who is a cop going to believe, this innocent woman or me, the trans woman who's going into the bathroom and being a drag queen, you know? Of course, I'm being sarcastic. I want to empathize that. Like, and I think it's really difficult because I feel like I'm damned if I date men and I'm damned if I date women, because men can turn that argument around too and be like, oh, she never told me, that's why I was violent with her.
Panic attack.
Yeah.
Defense.
Yeah, and I mean, it goes without saying, well, but I'm going to say it, the trans women in this country have been subjected to just insane and horrific levels of violence.
Absolutely.
And a lot of that comes
Absolutely.
back down to the patriarchy and to these ideas of, well, say you find a trans woman attractive and, oh, all of a sudden that makes you gay and that's a
because
bad
they think
thing.
trans
We're
women are bad.
equating all of these things which really just don't matter. We can't equate gender to genitalia. We can't forget about our intersex siblings who don't fit neatly into boxes of M and F, and really reducing people to their genitalia. Isn't that what feminists were always about, is we don't want to be reduced to limited by our gender?
And
that's the whole
I'm
point.
talking to you as an intersex person myself. It is strange what people do in order to like lift up these gender roles and gender whatever it's called in society, honestly, because growing up, I had high levels of testosterone. I was literally forced to take hormones to basically suppress my, and conform to quote unquote what it means to be a woman, even though I'm not a woman, you know? And that also impacts me in the sense that, like, you know, I literally got things that I didn't want growing up. It's my body, and yet I didn't have a choice.
Yep.
You know?
All comes back down to bodily autonomy.
I think as well, what I don't understand is when people tell me, oh, like, you don't belong in the women community and you don't belong as a woman. My mind is woman. There's so many facts of womanhood. Why does having a vagina, having a period, and giving birth have to mean womanhood?
There are women who don't have periods,
do that.
who
Exactly.
don't give birth.
So let me ask you guys, right? And because again, you know, I'm gonna sit on this side of the table here for a moment. All right.
I was thinking, they're the youngins.
Yeah.
He is like in the middle, and then you and I are over here.
Okay, so, you know, for my generation, for your generation, Karen, you know, this conversation isn't as simple as you guys are making it, right? It's just not, because our brains, not my brain, I'm fine, but our brains as a collective, as a whole, can't necessarily wrap around this idea of two-spirit, of intersex, of these, you know, even transgender, they can't stomach a drag queen. You think they can even swallow to understand transgender? Now, I think it's like really, really important to say, so how, because I'm not transgender, so I can't be the one to write the literature that makes it easy for people, the quick guide, you know, that comes with all
101.
Yeah, the quick guide for those people who are people in my generation who are interested in growing as people, as human beings, who are believe in that message of love and acceptance, but have no idea what you're talking about.
Well,
You get
I think
what I
it's
mean?
also reconstructing your own values of gender and what gender means to you. I think it's all about reconstruction. When we move forward and, you know, generations process and different things process, the only way we can move forward is by reconstructing our values and old things.
Yeah, and
move forward.
And reconstructing is, again, you're asking someone to destroy 50 years of their life.
It's very hard,
and erect this new non-binary queer, you know.
Let me make it a little more simple. I mean, as a transgender person, one of the hardest things to hear from, you know, your family, your parents, is they're mourning their daughter, which you're still the same person. You're, you know, and obviously people need time to come to grips and however that looks, right? But the fact of the matter is, a person's a person, right? We're the same person regardless of how we look, what we do, how we act, what we call ourselves. And I think that's what really comes down to it, is making those human connections and talking, like asking me, like, can you, if you're comfortable, would you mind sharing with me something? I've never quite understood this aspect. I have questions. You know, Google is your friend. You may also find some really strange, well, Google's not your friend, but searching and researching is your friend. And also making friends, and genuinely, when you can tell when someone has care in their heart and just wants to know, not because you're a freak show, but because they care about you and want to better themselves.
I also want you to ask yourself, how do I know I'm a woman? You know, because a lot of times people are always like, oh, trans women and trans men and trans non-binary people, like, how do they know? How do they know? Well, how do you know? You know, cis people also have a question to ask themselves, and they make a choice every single day in being a cis, presenting as a gender and being the gender that they are. So how do you know?
I think I even had that conversation with my mom.
I mean, I could answer that. I could answer that. And this is what I'm saying about my generation, is that we can answer that because that's what we have been taught. That's what we understand. That's what we know. From the moment we pop out of a vagina, because we all come from one, well, most of us, unless you were like created in a test tube or something like that.
Well, what about C-sections?
Or you came out of a belly button, you did come out of a womb of some sort. And when I think about it like that, so from that space till now, they tell you, well, you have, you know, these parts, right? The bodily parts.
But what if you don't have those parts?
But right. So you have these parts. You have this that happens to you every month. You have hormones. And when you get into new ages, I'm not even going to go there, okay? But there's things that happen in your body as a biologically, female person, okay? That then tells me I'm female.
Right, and the deeper you delve into it, because women and people who are biologically, you know, live with estrogen in their bodies, go through different phases, and at a certain point, any signifier, any descriptor you might use might not be valid at some point.
And not apply to all women. For example, not all women can give birth. Not all women have periods. Not all women have low levels of testosterone. Not all women, there's so many generalizations that
I think it's also about knowing, me and my mom has had this conversation, because my mom was like, you know, I had suspicions because I was a theater kid, so I would make little things. My mom was like, why are you always a girl in everything you do? And I'm like, it's natural to me, you know?
Yeah, that's a great answer, too. So the Aqua Foundation for Women presents events throughout the year to help raise funds, build community, and foster philanthropy. Up next, we'll tell you about some of these amazing events, or how we participated in other events in our community.
In Aqua events, Aqua Foundation presented 44,000 from AHF Florida AIDS Walk. The AHF Florida AIDS Walk was arranged on March 18th under the sponsorship of Wells Fargo to bring attention to the pressing issue of HIV/AIDS, educate and inspire the community to work together and end the epidemic once and for all. This 5K walk raised a significant amount of money during the walk due to the tremendous support of the community. Even AHF donated $1 to match every $1 donated. Today, AHF announced the funding for Aqua Foundation for Women. $44,000 was presented to Aqua Foundation to help it improve the status of queer women in the community and make suitable arrangements for the betterment and overall growth of these women. This is fantastic news, and as an Aqua scholar, I can't even tell you how proud I am of Aqua right now. Like, y'all are doing such amazing work. I'm so honored and privileged to be a part of your organization, and I can't wait to see all the amazing things you're gonna do with all this funding that you've been getting.
Yeah, and just being at the walk itself was an awesome opportunity. Like, you know, we had lots of people who said, yeah, I want to donate, but I don't want to do the walk. The walk is really where you meet a lot of people and have a lot of great conversations and just feel the support of the community, which I think you just can't replace.
I even had a great time, even though I was having heat exhaustion at the walk.
Up until that, it was awesome.
But even that, like, I just love the Aqua like, everyone in Aqua, all of you are just amazing, and like, I just love volunteering with you guys, and it was just so fun, and I feel like I found like another family. You know, you guys are really sweet.
I mean, that's what we want. That's what we want to be, is a home for queer women in South Florida to know, where can I go for education, for social events, for opportunities, you know, such as
Drag
our scholarships.
Bingo. Yes,
Drag bingo.
This Sunday.
This Sunday night, May 7th, 6 o'clock.
And I know all about the Aqua girls. You know, it's like I feel like I've been a part of this community for such a long time. And when I was just a youngin' and didn't really know where the ladies were necessarily, or how to connect with, because I didn't just want to be a party animal, you know what I mean? I wanted to do things, and how do we give back to community? And Aqua Girl always created those moments, those experiences for me to step into, say, the political conversation, to step into activism, and to step into being a stand for our community of lesbians. So yeah, I really appreciate Aqua Foundation.
Thank you.
And I'm glad they see you now, you know.
In Aqua events, March with Aqua Foundation at Stonewall Pride Parade, June 17th. Stonewall Pride Parade and Street Festival will be held on Saturday, June 17th, 2023 at Wilton Manors. Organized and presented by Hotspots Happening Out Television Network, the Street Festival will be from 3 p.m. to 11 p.m., while the parade will start at 7 p.m. Stonewall Pride celebrates the historic Stonewall riots and the start of the LGBTQ plus human rights movement and how it has shaped our community. The Stonewall Pride Parade and Street Festival typically attracts 50,000 spectators and has a direct economic impact of more than $6 million for the city of Wilton Manors. Aqua Foundation will be marching at the parade as the representative from lesbians and queer women in support of the LGBTQ plus community, and to celebrate the significance of the Stonewall riots for the community, as Pride is a protest. And I think, thinking of this, with the Miami Beach Pride and with everything that's happening here in Florida specifically, it's like the last couple of prides have almost like, you know, again, full circle moment, coming back to a lot of protest, which I think is super cool. And I think it also, it's a story that we can use, or, you know, point to an example to people who say, you know, why do you have to have these pride parades? And say to them, you know, pride is not, I mean, it is just about, you know, being gay and in the community, but it started as a protest, you know, and we're getting back there. And because of those protests, initially, we gained rights and community and all those things, and we will continue to do so.
Yeah, and I think exactly. I don't think it's cool that it's going back to becoming a protest. Ideally, we would be at a place, I think, where that's no longer necessary. Yeah. But as we're seeing, especially in Florida, I mean, just recently with Treasure Coast Pride, what they faced from the city and having to put up privacy walls as if we're something shameful. as if, we're only allowed to exist if we're not bothering other people.
So then it goes back to this. If we are Pride as a protest, right? Pride is a protest. So how are we not protesting then? Because isn't the protest if DeSantis, I don't even say his name, it's like struck by lightning or something.
Must not be named.
Yeah,
like Beetlejuice.
But DeSantis and his cronies who are creating this type of legislation that silence our community, the reality of it is that this is a protest. If Pride is a protest, then let's protest. Yeah. And it's not about, we have to be willing to be arrested.
Yeah.
We have to be willing to be hurt. Yeah. We have to be willing, because those are the risks that in history, the people before us took on those streets on Christopher Street in New York City. Sometimes it takes the kind of courage when you believe that your life is in danger. It takes the kind of courage that when you think, I'm gonna be arrested, I'm gonna be uncomfortable, I'm gonna be whatever makes you feel insecure.
And it's a time that we really need to stand up together.
That's when we have to
come together. Yeah. And unfortunately, a lot of prides are getting canceled. I'm from Sarasota area originally, and Tampa Pride just announced that this is their last Pride this year. Unfortunately, a lot of prides are closing down, and we really need to keep going and keep showing that we're here and we're queer.
And let me tell you, another thing about these prides is that they've been funded by a lot of organizations that say they have our back, but last minute they don't.
Yeah.
And that's why we're seeing, for example, Sarasota, Tampa Pride being canceled. I actually heard news as well that West Palm Beach Pride is also being canceled as well.
And that's another reason to show up for, not just for Aqua, but for all of the LGBTQ organizations that are headquartered here in Wilton Manors. Wilton Manors Pride is not sponsored or presented by some big bank or something that doesn't care. It's really organized by a community organization that is by and for LGBTQ people. Exactly. And so how you show up with Aqua, it's really pretty easy. You can, send us an email, info@aquafoundation.org, and follow us on all our social channels, and all of the signups are there. You can march with us. We're going to be in the parade itself, and we're going to have a booth. We really want the community to be out here with us. That's the whole point.
Absolutely.
So don't stay home. In Aqua events, Aqua Foundation's Break the Stigma HIV/AIDS Conference for Queer Women returns August 19th. Aqua Foundation for Women is back with its second annual HIV/AIDS Resource and Awareness Conference for Queer Women, Break the Stigma. The venue for the event is Sunshine Cathedral Center for Performing Arts. It is Saturday, August 19th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. The event is open and free. Aqua Foundation serves and supports the lesbian, bisexual, and transgender community in South Florida through grants, scholarships, and initiatives. One of the important objectives of the foundation is to integrate with mainstream organizations and collaborate with LGBTQ+ organizations to build community and relationships to promote wellness and equality. Though the event is open to all, the organization requests the attendees to donate as per their capacity to help LGBTQ+ women in the community.
Can I take this before you say
Sure.
something? Okay, we are, in my opinion, in a moment of greatness with Bad Papi here. I had the
baddest Papi
experience last year to do a lot of fundraising so they could drive Break the Stigma. And it was such an amazing day. We were at Pride Lines, and it was the first time in a really long time that I had felt really in community. Now, I am part of that community. That is not my community per se, but I knew that the people that were there on that Saturday morning in August really needed to be in that space. And we had a keynote speaker, a panelist, panelists, Bad Papi moderated all of that. We had 4 breakout rooms. We were so fortunate. The AT&T pioneers brought beautiful lunches for everyone. I brought T-shirts, you know, and it was just, I could just tell there were people there that day that had food insecurities, you know, and they're like leaving with 3 lunches. And I'm like, go and take a couple extra T-shirts. You know what I mean? It was just, it was just, you know, it wasn't a big event. It wasn't, you know, just kind of giving accolades to each other. It was really doing the work. And I am so happy that we're bringing it back. And the person that we have to thank for this is Bad Papi.
Thank you. I appreciate
And I do want to emphasize that this, well, first of all, obviously, thank you to Bad Papi, but this event is not just for queer women, right? I mean, the women who are, some of the groups that are at the highest risk of becoming infected with HIV are actual heterosexual women. So
Black heterosexual women.
exactly. And so, I mean, in contrast to, you know, a lot of our events, which really do center LGBTQ women specifically, really we're trying to reach out to the groups that need it, exactly as Karen said, people who really need this information and this access.
Yeah, and that's why last year when we hosted the HIV conference, we centered Black women, which means Black trans women, Black cis women, just Black women, because they are the ones who need it the most.
And also, you know, the impetus for this conference was a strategic move because we are in partnership and have been lucky to be a beneficiary of the AIDS Healthcare Foundation Florida AIDS Walk. And in my mind, I'm thinking, you know, this is a great fundraising opportunity for Aqua, and I want to do everything that we can to keep it. You know, and our former ED, Grace Lopez, had approached Bad Papi about the idea, and then, you know, we brought it through and we took it over the finish line, and it was just wonderful.
Let me tell you why she came to me. It's because I actually work in care resource, and I work with specifically a woman of color who are at risk for HIV. And they constantly tell me that they want more resources because HIV is specifically catered towards like the branding and everything, and the support groups is towards cis gay men. And it's not to say that they don't need it. They do need it. But women need it too. And they've been expressing this to me again and again and again. And when Grace came up to me and said, hey, I want to do something with you because you do work in this community, I was like, yes, please, because they really need it.
And that's part of that community and collaboration. In Aqua events, Vital Needs of Trans Community, the focus of September 9th Aqua Foundation TransCon. Aqua Foundation TransCon is a day-long conference with many workshops and panels on the needs of the trans community. It will be held at the Scott Galvin Community Center on September 9th, 2023. It is a free conference for the South Florida transgender and non-binary community, put together by the trans and non-binary community, with support from Aqua Foundation for Women. So I'm super, super excited and to be bringing TransCon back. TransCon was, I want to say, one of the jewels of Aqua Foundation from 2014 to 2019. And, you know, like a lot of things during the pandemic, things changed. And so we're bringing it back this year because, as we all know, transgender individuals are at the center of a lot of really atrocious legislation and attacks on our healthcare, our access to equal, human rights. So really what we're going to be doing is putting together, the theme is bringing, connecting community to resources. We're going to have educational resources, healthcare resources, obviously networking and social aspects as well. We want it to be fun and to also really be an opportunity for the community to see themselves and to be seen together.
That is awesome. And it's kind of funny that you're talking about that because I made something for a project for my LGBT studies class that was the same exact idea. And I was like, I really wish we had something like that. And here we are today talking about it. It sounds amazing.
Ask and you shall receive.
Yeah.
No, I'm like so excited for this because I was actually there like the years ago that they actually had TransCon, and I actually really enjoyed it. And that was like when I first started coming out as a trans non-binary individual, and it really did help me in my journey. And I'm just so excited to have it back this year, and actually hopefully participating in all the events. So
we're very excited about having it back too. The community really wanted us to, to have it back, and we were able to get an initial grant from our trust partnership with this the Children's Trust of Miami and the YWCA of South Florida. And we're having it in this beautiful new facility, which is
Scott
Galvin. And it's the only building in Miami-Dade County that is named after a gay person, an LGBTQ person.
Beautiful.
Wow. Yep. So we want to shout out to the city of North Miami, as well as Our Fund Foundation, Care Resource, and AHF, obviously. Though there have been, so far there are starting supporters for TransCon, because I'm sure we're going to have many more. So,
Woo.
All right.
All right. Well, that's so fantastic. Can't wait. In Aqua events, we have the historic Aqua Girl at Sea will be Women's Cruise of the Year, April 27th, 2024 from Miami. The fabled South Florida event, Aqua Girl, will roar back bigger and better than ever in 2024. But this time at sea, today, the Aqua Foundation for Women announces a unique partnership with MSC Cruise Lines and their brand new mega 5-star cruise ship, MSC. Seascape, it's called. This will host an 8-day cruise for lesbians, queer women, and all of our allies. The Saturday departure will be a fun cruise for all, but also a, quote, cruise for good, end quote. Revenues from the cruise will be donated to Aqua Foundation needed programs. Aqua Girl at Sea will sail to Nassau, Paradise Island, San Juan, Puerto Plata, DR, and MSC's Ocean Cay Marine Reserve, the world's most spectacular private island. More than a dozen onboard events will be hosted for Aqua Girl at Sea, including happy hour specials, 3 special night theme parties with DJ, a unique beach and pool party on the beach in the Dominican Republic, and so much more. A special highlight will be a daytime open bar beach party at Ocean Cay, the most expensive 95-acre Caribbean island built by a cruise line. You'll also enjoy a special on the beach dance party under this 100-foot lighthouse at Ocean Cay. Best of all, you can make your reservations for just $1. Yep, you heard that right. Just $1. My Starbucks coffee is more expensive than that. And the cruise is affordable for all with an interest-free monthly payment plan of just $99. To add value, you pay just $99 for the first day of unlimited Wi-Fi and open bar. And then Aqua Girl guests get the next 7 days for free. It's going to be the party and cruise to be at in 2024. All right, well, as you can see, I can't even hold back my excitement. I have so
take
much.
my money.
Yeah, here's my money. I want to go. And I think that Lady Snack Daddy might have to make an appearance, but I'll have my people call your people, and we'll try to figure it out. Answer. Yeah, but this is so much fun. I love hearing that you guys are now getting into the cruise. Talk about creating an event, right? Creating an opportunity for us to come together as community and also enjoy some culture, enjoy some fun. I don't know, have you guys ever been on a cruise before?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
I love it. Gay cruise, sign me up.
Yeah, I mean.
Well, and it's so funny because we're just so happy about this. And it's kind of like, we won't have to do all the heavy lifting, as Mateo tells me. And an interesting fact, my good friend Dan Rios at the Miami Visitor and Convention Bureau approached me last fall and was telling me and Lexi Goza, a former board member, that the number one thing searched on their search engine for all of Miami, everyone that comes to Miami, Aqua Girl.
Yep.
And he's like, Karen, you need to bring Aqua Girl back.
It's also such a good deal. It's 8 days for $1,475. That is a really good deal.
It's actually just $475
Oh, 470.
Yeah, so
wow, for 8 days?
For 8 days.
Eight?
So yeah, I
Okay.
know, you're like so encouraged.
I'm coming there with my daiquiri. I'm ready.
I mean, and as we said, allies too. Like even if you just need an affordable vacation,
Right.
you cannot beat 475 for 8 days.
And a
Not at all.
5-star brand new ship.
Unheard of.
Not at
Bring
all.
it on.
Yeah.
Buffet.
Thank you to our sponsors and our partners at MSC and Hotspots Happening Out Now Television Network, because couldn't do it without you.
Sounds fun.
Aqua Foundation for Women thanks these special sponsors and key supporters. Aqua Foundation for Women has been striving for the betterment of the queer women in the community, and this would not have been possible without the help of the supporters, donators, and sponsors of the events and programs that Aqua organizes. Aqua appreciates monetary support shown by the AHF Allegheny Franciscan Ministries, our fund, Hotspots Happening Out Television Network, and the Aqua Insiders, Ed Straub, Marie Lovo, Laura Sullivan, Mariela del Rio, and Ivelis Torres Alejo.
That is today's news for the LGBTQ plus community on the world's first and only daily LGBTQ plus evening news show. If our community is important to you, share this news with your friends and family. Are you, like most of America, part of our very large television audience watching this live LGBTQ plus news broadcast right now on Roku, Apple TV, Android TV, and Amazon Fire TV? Queer News Tonight is the only live LGBTQ plus digital television show in the world that is out of the closet and into the headlines. We need your support. If our community is to grow, we must tell our stories and bring them to the attention of the broader world. This is the only place in the world that tells these types of LGBTQ plus stories in motion and sound. That is the passion of Hotspots Magazine, Happening Out Television Network, and Queer News Tonight. I'm your anchor, Mateo Ventura Bruer, and on behalf of these LGBTQ plus reporters, the anchors of this special Aqua Foundation at Large edition of Queer News Tonight, including Karen Costello-Wilder, Chef Josie, Tyia Hareland, and Bad Papi, we will see you daily at 8 p.m. Celebrate the women of our LGBTQ plus community. Good night. Good
LGBTQ plus news is vital for our community and for the broader world as a whole. We have enough enemies at Fox News. Tucker, Sean, and Lara are loud. We need passionate allies. Happening Out Television Network, Queer News Tonight, and It's Happening Out are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. Our community needs your support. Like this broadcast and subscribe now to ensure the growth of the entire LGBTQ plus